Now we're live.
Hey, everybody. We're a couple minutes late here on the show. My apologies. This is David Schooley. I am so excited to bring everybody together. I've got up here in the corner, I've got James Keenan joining us to talk about today's show. It is going to be a phenomenal show. But James, how you doing, buddy?
Doing well, Dave. Thanks for having me on. It was just an amazing episode last night. It's going to be exciting to talk to a couple of the people that were on there and, discuss what occurred.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, I want to take a quick second to tell you, if you're not following James, you have got to follow James. This gentleman is well respected in the research and investigation communities. He's a published author. You see the link at the bottom of the screen there. Go check out some of the information that James has. He is a wealth of information, and we're very, very honored to have him here. Now, with that, let's talk to Carl for a second. Carl, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing awesome. The episode last night was so cool, and it unlocked a whole bunch of answers for me, but also way more questions. I'm really fascinated and interested in where this whole story is going to go, because whether you look at the ancient history of it or the strangeness of it, it's really starting to unfold into a much bigger story than we think.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. I can't even contain how excited I am about everything that's being revealed. I want to help educate. The whole purpose of us coming together each week and talking about this is there is so much to go over. There's no way that the show can possibly share everything, and we don't want to share too much because obviously there's more episodes to come, and we want everybody to see it the way that it's supposed to be. But you guys have been in the Uintah basin many times. I mean, tell me a little bit about what it's like to go out there and research in that area.
Yeah, it's one of the few places on this planet where so much phenomena occurs all at once. There's a lot of unexplainable events. And instead of going to one location just to collect the data points on a phenomenon, you're collecting multiple data points all at once on plenty of phenomena. Like you said, you have two ranches that are well known and famous, very close to each other for a reason. And, the history in the area, it's just incredible that this hasn't been just for a short amount of time. You're talking this occurring over millennia, even longer than that, possibly.
Well, and it's interesting that you say that because this is new to a lot of people. I mean, this is only the second season on Discovery, so a lot of people are very unaware of what's going on in that basin and in that area. But it's only a few miles from Skinwalker Ranch, right? Everyone knows that Skinwalker Ranch has all kinds of craziness going on there, and we're getting really exciting because this is the first time that on the episode that we just saw last night, they talk about the potential existence of UFOs out there. I mean, we've heard a little bit about there's strange things in the sky and there's weird magnetic and all of that. Carl, you've investigated out there many times. I mean, have you experienced anything crazy?
Oh, absolutely. That's the thing that's hooked me on this entire thing in Blind Frog Ranch, and the mystery of all of it is because when you get there, I don't care if you're a geologist or an archaeologist or a historian or someone just camping, or if you're interested in UFOs, when you get up there and you start having your equipment fail on you, you start to have like cognitive interruptions with your memory and things like that, or you start to have what would be considered paranormal encounters, and you see things in the sky that would be described as like UFO craft, unidentified craft in the sky, and shadow figures on the ground. Suddenly, it doesn't matter what approach you're trying to take to get to the bottom of this mystery. It goes really deep and encompassing into a really large scope that's hard to fathom. And so it's difficult to know which way to begin and where to go, even though the show really focuses on the Aztec evidence and the historical evidence that's layered in this region over thousands of years up in the area. Most people don't even know that. But when you get into that area and start experimenting with it and exploring it, all this other stuff begins to occur, and you have to try and wrap your head around it and deal with it in the moment. And it's very surprising.
And that's going to be actually what's happening right now with the fans of this show. I mean, you expect one thing, and Dwayne talks about this quite a bit. You expect, you're going to find something, and every answer they get leads to 10 more questions. He's said this several times. And it's true. And I know that there's going to be fans that are going to have a hard time wrapping their head around, okay, wait a minute, they're looking for gold, but look at what all other craziness is going on. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. So let's get to this. I mean, I know everybody's excited. We've got some awesome guests joining us here in just a few minutes. Let's talk about how this came together. We are brought to you by Blind Frog Ranch Outpost. If you have not been to Vernal, you got to come to Vernal, guys. Blind Frog Ranch Outpost is actually a store that we've set up out in Vernal. It's right there, a few miles from where the ranch is. We've got Blind Frog Ranch T-shirts. We've got Blind Frog Ranch gear. Right now, we're doing a featured sale, which is the 15% off the BFR ball caps, which you see on the show quite a bit. There's some really, really cool stuff up there. You got to check it all out. There's so much swag. It's ridiculous. We've got cool stickers. We've got the magnets. We've got just amazing stuff. You won't see me without my Blind Frog Ranch coffee mug. And I want to announce one more thing before we bring our special guests on that's going to be absolutely amazing. For this show, we're doing a special treat. We've got these photos right here of Dwayne and Chad that will be signed, autographed by both of them, and we're giving away 5 of them per episode. All you guys have to do is go like our Facebook page and put in the comments, I want an autographed photo. We're going to pick some winners. We're going to send them out to you guys. We're going to do something cool like this each week. So please, guys, get engaged. Tell your friends. Let's get some good things going. Now, you ready to bring on our guests?
Let's do it.
All right,
Absolutely.
Let's do it. So first guest from the ranch itself, we're going to bring on Charlie Boy. Charlie, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing great today. How's everybody doing?
Very good.
Doing well, Charlie.
Charlie, you always look so relaxed and so cool, but man, you're taking on a lot up there with that security. I mean, there's some craziness going on up there, right?
Well, it's, you have your work duties and then you have your security duties and it's a nonstop, 12, 14, 16-hour day, sometimes 24 hours a day. It's nonstop. When you see us working, and maybe I'm not in a scene or something, it's because maybe I'm doing some security around the ranch and I'm out for 30 minutes or 45 minutes, but it's just nonstop work is what it is.
Well, and hard work. You guys, I mean, even just walking on that, that ranch is hard work. I mean, you're dealing with crazy typography, you're dealing with animals, you're all that cool stuff.
Yeah. And it's a lot of loose sand, so you have to be careful when you're climbing up the side of a mountain. It wouldn't several of us have fallen down the mountains before, so it's I made a step to the left one night about midnight, and that rock just gave way and down I went.
Oh goodness.
So when you get to the bottom you go, okay, this is gonna hurt.
Well, and even more, I mean, I think about this. I mean, we do tours out at the ranch, right? So that's really awesome. But we stay along a certain trail because of that fact. It's difficult, to manage. And you guys are miles away from any kind of hospital.
Oh yeah, we're to get you out of there, depending on where you're at, could be a couple of hours. And probably they would have to bring in a helicopter to get you out.
Oh goodness, that's a little bit scary, man.
It is a little bit deceiving on the show when you're watching it on your TV. When you're standing like at the pond where the tunnel goes underground to where the box is, and you turn around and you see the tree and the energy zone up behind you and everything, it all looks like you could just walk up there. But the truth is, it would be quite a hike and a strenuous journey just to get from point A to B, because that terrain is so vast and difficult to get around on.
You have to be in good physical condition to walk that ranch, because it is treacherous and in a lot of places. You go from 7,200 feet at base to 9,000 feet, and so it's by the end of a work season, you should be, if you're working on that ranch, you'll be in pretty good shape.
Definitely.
I'm sure. Oh, I'm sure. Well, and I want to go back to the fact that you're also in charge of security, which has gotten crazy, and so thus the entrance of another gentleman who's joined the team, which I'm going to introduce right now because we're lucky enough to have him actually with us on the show. So let's just bring him on real quick and let's start getting to know him. We're going to bring on Jamie. Jamie, how you doing?
Good. How you guys been?
Very good, very good. So Jamie, you're new to the show, but obviously not new to Charlie Boy. Let's take a couple minutes and get to know you, my friend. Tell me how you know Charlie and why you're out at that ranch. That's kind of nuts.
Well, Charlie and I have a long past in law enforcement together. We've done special things out there. Charlie and I, we've been doing a lot of investigations together. He kind of threw a curveball at me this time. Going out there on the ranch, I wasn't really sure what to expect. I got out there and, I wasn't expecting, what happened at the gate. That there alone was, it just kind of blew my mind a little bit. And then, Charlie released all the other information after that. So my mind has been kind of shaken up a little bit over all this because I'm just a small town guy, I come from a small police force.
Right. Well, I mean, you're in a small town. There's just some craziness going on, right?
Yeah, a bigger town for me, that is.
Right on, right on. Charlie, tell us why you decided to call up Jamie.
Well, Jamie's done a lot of investigation on things that are not normal, and so I knew if I gave him all the details right off the bat, he probably would decline because it was so far away from where he was and or where he is, and so I left out some details and when he got to the ranch and then I started giving him the details, and then all of a sudden we're dealing with this gate issue, and so it was, he just kind of looked at me. He said, "Brother," he said, "what the hell did you get me into?"
Yeah, Jamie, you got manipulated a little bit there, buddy.
Yeah, I did. I've done a lot of work, in the paranormal field investigating, and Charlie knew this, and this is why he brought me on. But right yeah, I wasn't really expecting any of this, and now that I'm thrown into it, it just gets, the mystery just gets deeper and deeper and gets bigger and bigger. And it's definitely gonna wake some people up for sure.
I agree. And with that, what I'd love to do, guys, is I'd love to pull up a couple of clips and just kind of talk about it a little bit so that we can kind of walk people through some of what's been going on. The shows are getting crazy. They're getting exciting, but also a little bit scary, which is why the two of you are on here today to talk about some of this. So let me bring that up here for just a second. I'm going to go ahead and show a little clip here from the beginning of the show, and then we'll talk about it.
Some say the land is trying to hold on to something. Don't go in the Aztec treasure. Holy caverns of gold. Morning riches.
They do $1 million here.
Some even say there's a buried spaceship.
Hell
Me? I never cared much about the stories.
All right, I'm going to stop that right there for just a second because I've got to throw a couple questions at you guys. Working with Dwayne, a few things. Working with Dwayne, I mean, that's a driven man. He wants to get in there and he wants to find some things. So I want to hear your guys' thoughts about working with him. But also, I heard this right. I played this several times. He just said that there's possibilities of all kinds of things. And that last thing that he said is some even say that there's possibly a buried spaceship. That's craziness, right? So first question. Jamie, you're the new guy, so I'll ask you, what's it like working with Dwayne? I mean, he's intense. He wants to get to this stuff.
Yeah, Dwayne's very intense and he's very driven, but he's a great person, great guy to work with. Dwayne's always going to balance everything, and he's going to make sure everybody's happy. And the guy's he's an incredible person.
Nice. So you like working with him, and tell me, does he motivate you to do the same?
Oh, absolutely, all the time. He's a very positive person, very positive. And there is so much going on over there, on top of that mountain. It's just he's always keeping us out, always going, keeping us happy.
He doesn't seem to be rattled too much when all of this craziness is happening either. I mean, Charlie, you've worked with him for years. I mean, is his demeanor always like, all right, we'll deal with it?
It really is. We have had to learn how to deal with sudden things that just happen there on the ranch and just out of nowhere, So sometimes it will you'll have to just stop what you're doing to absorb what just happened because you don't understand it. But he's very level-headed. He's very driven. He is always open for suggestions, and so we work very well together and have fun together.
Nice. Well, and that, I think that's probably key because you guys are working with so much intense stuff. If you're not having fun once in a while, I mean, man, the stress has got to be crazy.
Well, yeah, it's a lot of the stuff that where we're having fun, you probably won't see that on the show, but we have to laugh every once in a while. Agreed.
Well, let's get into real quick, and I mentioned the UFO potential down below. James and Carl, both of you have investigated up there. You've both made reference to things going on in the sky. What's your reaction to hearing, that some people believe there's a possible buried UFO out there?
Go ahead, James.
Yeah, it's interesting. One of the things that the Uintah Basin is known for is being UFO Alley. And when you look at where it's located, it's this ongoing corridor that starts out, all the way down in New Mexico and flies over places like Corona, where there was a supposed crashed ship, and over Los Alamos through Native American territory. And then it just travels just east of Skinwalker Ranch and Blind Frog Ranch. And, Jamie last night talked about this NASA site, which is Site 413 for NASA. And it just so happens that it's exactly at 335.00 degrees. And it's directly over this corridor. And when you talk about going back, not just 50, 60 years, you're talking about going back millennia, because then you look at the petroglyphs and pictographs in the area.
Right.
And there looks to be anthropomorphic, zoomorphic, and unknown symmetrical iconography that, gosh, I mean, it looks like you're almost watching a 20th or 21st century television show with what these creatures look like and what they're flying around on. So it's just interesting for them to, if that's something that they're talking about on the basin, about a UFO being underground, just look at the rest of the history that goes along with that.
That's amazing. And James, I massively respect the research that you've done up there. We've had a chance to get to know each other with this Blind Frog project, and the amount of history there is just insane. And the amount of folklore, the amount of different beliefs. I've got a question from the chats that I'm going to throw up here, and then I'll direct this to Carl here real quick. We've got people that are constantly asking, what's going on there? Because we see things. Do you feel there's a special force on that land that might even be directing you? Is the actual question. And we get these kinds of questions quite often because you see things like crazy gusts of wind. You see things. We'll talk about this a little bit later, like computers not working and everything. Carl, what are your thoughts on that question?
For me personally, absolutely. I see the connections and I've experienced them when I go to these locations, and it doesn't matter, if you go up to look at the petroglyphs at McConkey Ranch and you start to fathom those connections to the ancient past, and then the connections with the potential of UFOs in the sky or future technology or test technology from Dugway Airfield just to the west past Salt Lake City. It's all even interconnected into like Area 51 and strange stuff and why NASA's up there. But it's like I said earlier, if you start to approach it from any different direction, the coincidences and the synchronicities in your life begin to kind of unfold if you're paying attention. And I feel like everyone that I've met along the team, from Dwayne to Chad to the family and everybody up there, it's like this strange sense that, like, when I met Dwayne, for example, it's not like meeting a normal person. It's like you're looking through each other and there's this recognition or a deeper wisdom that you're a part of something a lot bigger than yourself. And I bet everyone on this team has felt that impression as you've met Dwayne and Chad and got involved in this project. You start to realize coincidences that go clear back into my own personal life and things I'm doing in my own research privately that seem too synchronistic and coincidental for me to not feel like it's something beyond even my own understanding. And that just sucks me in deeper. Like, what's going on up there is special. The whole basin is very special. And what's happening at Blind Frog Ranch is like a focal point where it's exactly the right people coming together at the right time for this to start to get looked at and approached in a safe way with the right people.
It's so crazy, and it definitely feels like it's so much more than just a hunt for Aztec gold, right? And we've got a comment here from another watcher. In ancient traditions, it's sometimes called laws of nature, a governing force, a part of this land, right? And that's that extra factor that people aren't thinking about. Why are there things happening that stop the forward motion on this land? Why are there all of these distractions that happen at very, very specific times? Charlie and Jamie, before we get on to the rest of this, I mean, Jamie, you're new to this. Do you have a certain feeling when you go on the property? Do you have any sort of intuition on this?
Well, I definitely get a charge. I get a huge charge whenever I'm at the ranch. And even when I pull into Vernal, from Salt Lake City, there's something weird when I get into that area, into the basin. It's strange. It's strange. It's uplifting. It's a high. It really is. And I don't really see anything negative at all happening around. I don't feel it, but I do feel that there's something bigger that's going to happen in the future. And I really feel that we're all part of this big puzzle, and we're all pieces of the puzzle. And I think this puzzle is going to come together. There's just the way I feel inside. So and it truly is a special place, and I think there's a reason for it, and I think we're all going to uncover it.
I appreciate you saying that, because I've experienced exactly the same thing in setting up the actual Blind Frog Ranch outpost right there inside Vernal. We've got to meet some incredible people. Everyone from that area just knows. They have this inherent knowledge that area is different. It's not like anywhere else. And there are things that are going on, and there's crazy feelings, and it's just an interesting thing. Again, not to plug too much, but come up. You guys got to check it out. You guys got to do a tour on the Blind Frog Ranch. It's actually very, very cool. All right, so I'm going to go to another clip here, and we're going to dive into what everybody is wanting to know, and that is.
Give us an update on what you got going on.
Yeah, sure. Yesterday was a very interesting day for me. I first looked up ambulance companies, trying to find out what was going on with the woman that was found dead at the gate. I found out that there was only one ambulance company that would cover a call for this area. And speaking with the paramedics, it was 4 of them that was working there, that day. And there was no call. None of them knew anything. Wow. So my question is if it weren't them, who was it? Who was it? So after that, I met with a local news reporter.
There's been.
All right, guys, I'm going to stop it there for a second because this is a lot to take in. Jamie, there's obviously a large scale issue here. I mean, you've got Dwayne worried about his property. You've got Dwayne worried about, he found a girl that either killed herself or was murdered, and nobody seems to know anything about it. And of course, I want to preface this. This is on television, so everybody watching needs to understand that they're probably not able to share, exact locations, exact timing, all that sort of thing. But Dwayne has taken it upon himself to figure out what's going on because this is kind of haunting him. It's unsettling. Jamie, tell us some of your thoughts on this because this is very interesting stuff here.
Well, this is where it all started to become kind of strange to me. Finding the paramedics, figuring out there was only like one outfit in town that would cover the area, and going there and speaking, with them and them telling me that they don't know anything. It was just they didn't know anything. So I'm questioning, that who were these people at the gate? Who picked up this woman? Where'd they take her? And it's just the mystery starts there. And then who are these people? There's a lot of people are starting to think that like on the show when they talked about people are acting like paramedics or they're acting like somebody else, but that they're not.
Well, and that's a scary thought to think that something like that could be covered up, right? Especially in this day and age when most of us believe that nothing like this can happen without there being some sort of forensics, some sort of evidence, some sort of
exactly. There's got to be protocol.
Yeah. Now, within this, I want to lead you down another path here. You mentioned a gentleman by the name of Dave Miller, and that's your investigation led you to him, which led to something else that may or may not have anything to do with this girl that you're actively investigating. So let's jump to that here real quick and take a look.
Strange and unusual cases throughout the Uintah basin for over a decade. He's gotten a lot of people to talk to him off the record. This reporter seemed to think that Dave knows something that could be connected with the murder/suicide at the ranch. So I'm pretty excited to hear what he has to say.
This story is something that I hear all the time. Strange cars, stone-faced individuals come in and they claim the body and they move on. Nothing's said anymore. You don't hear.
Okay, real quick. Just the idea that somebody says this is a common thing, I mean, that's crazy, right? I mean, Charlie boy, you've been in this area for a while. Have you heard of things like this happening where something that insane can happen and it's just brushed under the carpet?
Well, I think anything can be scrubbed. They scrubbed that NASA site, pretty well clean. There's nothing hardly left there at all. But so it doesn't surprise me that this is what he says is sometimes common, but it's not. To me, it's not common.
Right.
This is way out of the ordinary. It's not normal. It was done for a purpose. And what is that purpose? That's the big mystery behind it. Why?
Well, and I want to address something that does come up in a lot of the questions. You know, where we're seeing lots of questions and chatter. You know, with all of the social media sites and everything, and people are saying, well, based on how it looked, based on, you know, the way she was in the car and all that stuff, some important everybody needs to realize. Obviously, there were no camera crews or things set up to catch this as it happened live. That part is a reenactment for visual purposes, but the story of what's happened here and the investigation is a true and real thing. So understand that the visuals that you saw on the show, you know, they don't have cameras set up, you know, in remote locations where crazy stuff like this is happening at all times. But Jamie, you're there to find out, you know, real truths of what's happening, and this is a monumental task, is it not?
It is. It is. You know, it's. I can't talk a lot about it because I don't want to ruin anything, you know, in the future for the shows, for the viewers. But it really is a lot to take in. It really is.
I would imagine. Now, I'm going to direct back to the clips here for a moment because this then leads to, just like what we were saying, every question answered ends up being 10 more questions.
In the papers, you don't see anything. Wow. Where they're pretending to be something that they're not, and they're here investigating other things, which is why I asked you to come here. This is what I brought you out here to see, Jamie. NASA. People in town, they knew that there was something going on out here, but there was a perimeter here. Everything was fenced off, so they couldn't really see it. And then just one day, it's gone, and they leave this behind. What are they doing out here? That's the question. Very hard to find any information on him being here, first off. But the name of the location was Gravity Base Vernal. Gravity Base Vernal. The reports that I found, one of them described that they were just tracking satellites. Another one was they were studying the curvature of the Earth. And another one said that they were out here studying gravity anomalies. But the stories that I'm being told from the underground are that they were actually out here studying the UFO phenomenon. But this is proof that they were here. And in just one day, mysteriously, they're gone.
All right, let's dive into this because this opens so much. Yeah, NASA. NASA doesn't just go anywhere. There had to be reason for this. And Jamie, was this a shock to you?
You know, it was very much a shock to me. This place is really in the middle of nowhere. It really is. You can see hundreds of miles all around you. It's the perfect place for NASA to come in, set something up, because nobody can even come close to that area without NASA seeing them approaching hundreds of miles away. So it's perfect location for them to do studying on whatever they're studying. You know.
Now, Charlie Boy, did you know about this? Oh, I'm so sorry, Jimmy.
That's okay.
Go ahead.
No,
Charlie
Boy. Okay.
Charlie Boy, did you know about this NASA stuff?
I did not until Jamie came back and told me, you know, about it. I mean, it doesn't surprise me with what goes on in the basin, but to know that NASA was set up out there and then one day it was just all scrubbed and gone, you know, that really gets my curiosity up of, you know, what were they doing? Why?
Well, I'm gonna direct some of this to James because I know James has phenomenal expertise in this. In fact, James, you've researched the NASA's involvement in that area, have you not?
Yeah, it's the location is Site 413. Prior to it being with NASA, it was with the United States Geological Survey. They'd been issued $2.3 million for top secret work at that point before it was turned over to NASA. And later on in 1972 to 73, the site was turned over to NASA, the United States Air Force, specifically out of the base at Santa Fe, New Mexico, which is unusual instead of the ones that are in Utah, or Colorado, and it was partially funded by the Central Intelligence Agency. And what they were doing was looking into how their top secret planes, the XB-70 and the Blackbird SR-71, actually what they were doing in regards to setting off underground systems that they had in order to see how it was that could be tracked. But when you look deeper into the report, they black out, or they never provided what additional things were setting off the systems that they had underground. So what we did was we went out there, and it was interesting. Last time we were out there, somebody completely covered it up with gravel. Somebody brought in a gravel truck and covered the site up. So a friend of mine and I, with our feet, actually took off about 2/3 of it before we were just exhausted because we didn't have brooms. And I did 3D ground imaging, and there are actually 5 cavities below there. And in one of those cavities at exactly 3.87 meters, there is a huge metal object, which I believe is some type of seismograph machine. And then you're talking about a 400-page report that we'd have to cover in regards to what else was put underground in the basin. It's just amazingly interesting, but this was the focal point for what they were doing. And like I said, you're talking about UFO Alley. So, a lot of people go, oh, it's just something that they were using for satellite systems and all that. Absolutely not. There were 2 top secret reports that are now available to the public from the late 60s and the early 70s. So, what else has yet to be made public, since that location wasn't actually abandoned until 1987 or 88. And when I was there one time, I was actually on the phone with another investigator when a black helicopter came up from the canyon below and would not leave. There were several people in the helicopter just staring at me.
Oh my God.
So it's still being monitored. And I discussed this throughout all my presentations. What has been seen and going on around there has been seen for millennia. And, and obviously, like Jamie said with Dave Miller, it was actually looking at satellites and distancing from that. There was a VLBI system, but there was additional usage of it, which the CIA has now come out and said yes. The Air Force has said yes. The U.S. Geological Survey has said yeah, it's used for something else. But it'd be a 4, 5, 6 hour show just to discuss that. So, Jamie and Dave were definitely on to something.
James, sorry, David, I got to say this too. Even in my last video that I uploaded on my YouTube channel, I was at an ancient petroglyph site called the Little Black Rock Mountain, looking at ancient petroglyphs in the middle of nowhere on the border of southern Utah and Arizona. And I saw a pillar of black smoke go up out in the middle of nowhere in the desert, and 2 Black Hawk helicopters fly around overhead me. And they stayed there for like a half an hour. And I literally hid in the boulders and waited until they left. And I've had this happen with civilian looking helicopters, planes, and military ones flying in formation at these ancient locations. And there's even rumors of like NASA closing off areas around Chaco Canyon to the east. You got Area 51 to the west, and this whole bigger picture starts to unfold and be a focal point up around the Uintah Basin. Like there's something really strange that they're trying to study or that they're involved in that we don't have any idea. We're just scratching the surface up.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. We had a comment come in basically saying the same thing. The wooden box, Aztec gold, just the tip of the iceberg, guys. Every question that we tap into leads to 15 more questions. And it's just crazy. Now, with that being said, this episode also revealed some other really interesting things that I want to show here. Next clip here I've got is all about what we didn't know that others want to know.
Up there, by the tree.
Right by the tree there?
Yeah.
Yeah, look at that. There's solar right there. Son of a bitch. Oh, man. Look at this.
Wow.
Look at this.
camera too.
Look at this.
We got panels that are charging the 12 volt here.
We've got these screwed in also. They drilled into the rock.
Do they?
Yes. That's a pretty elaborate setup.
We got the Wi-Fi, and that's 4G, so they can control this right here.
And so they control this wirelessly.
Yeah.
This is bull. This is an elaborate spying setup. Come up here, and there's this elaborate setup. Solar panels going to a camera that can be controlled remotely through Wi-Fi. And so somebody can be in Salt Lake City and focus this camera on our camp. They can focus it on where we're prospecting, what we're collecting, wherever the hell they want. And this is a total breach of our privacy.
All right, guys. So all kinds of craziness is going on here. You've got these things that are happening that you're trying to figure out. You're looking for, possible Aztec gold. You're trying to figure out what's on that property. You've actually pulled out iridium. You've got alchemy going on that property. You've got all this stuff going on, and now you've got people that are putting high dollar surveillance stuff on your property to spy on you. Charlie boy, what is going on?
Well, I kind of estimated that the cost of that system that they had up there was probably between $5,000 and $7,000. So, it was not something that you would just go to your local store and pick up, parts to put something together. This was a well planned out, well thought out system that they could. To me, it looked like they could just put this out over the internet anytime they wanted to, or sell ad space to it. We don't know what they were.
Well, that is the question. Why? Right? Yeah. Are they trying to see what you're doing and beat you to what you find? Are they surveillancing you for some other purpose? I mean, we just heard James and Carl talk about personal experiences of being out in those areas and having a sudden Blackhawk show up over them. Jamie, how do you make sense of this? It's crazy.
Yeah, you really can't make sense of it. To have this high-tech camera watching us, observing us, we're asking the same, the question, why? Who is it? What are they watching? What do they think we have, or what do they don't want us to find? It's just a crazy thing that happened. It's a mystery.
It is nuts. I mean, we saw as a preview on last episode, right? For the premiere, we saw that at some point there's an altercation between people coming on the property and Dwayne, which I'm sure we'll see in upcoming episodes. We have cameras being actually installed and remotely controlled. Is this Black Ops? I mean, what is this?
Exactly. We've asked ourselves that question.
Wow, absolutely crazy. I don't envy you guys on the security side of things. And by the way, we get a lot of questions. Why don't you just put up a giant fence? Why don't you have, full-time security out there? Charlie boy, I know the answer to this. I've been out to the property. It's not easy to secure, but I'd like to hear you address that.
Well, we've talked a lot about fencing of the area, but that's that land is used by ranchers. It's used by hunters. We really don't want to change anything, and we want people to enjoy it. And when you start fencing it off, then you've got $100,000 worth of cost in just trying to fence it off, and so if they're not bothering anything and they're just passing through, it doesn't bother us.
Well, and I've spoken with Dwayne and Chad about this a few times as well, and it's not quite that simple. We mentioned this in our previous episode. If you guys haven't watched it, please watch it. There's some great information. The BLM, which is the Bureau of Land Management in Utah, also owns a lot of property right there. It's not just as simple as doing whatever you want on that land. There's a lot of regulations. even just moving the water. We address this. I know we keep getting this question. If you guys are wondering why we don't just pipe that water out or pump that water out and just walk right down in there, please watch last week's episode. Chad explains it very thoroughly as to what the options are for getting in there. It's not as simple. Trust me, guys, if that was a simple answer, these guys would be doing it. They're trying to work within a very narrow scope of, not hurting the land, not going against rules and regs of Utah and the Bureau of Land Management, and walking that balance, but also staying safe. So I need to move us along here, and there's a few more clips I want to cover. So let's just go right to another one. This episode is titled Aztec or Not. So we barely touched on that. Let's get into one of those scenes, and then we'll talk about it here. So here we go.
That box was put into the cavern and the type of tree that was used to make it. Now, if that matches up with Montezuma, we could be sitting on a huge treasure and we'll go after it, no matter how much it costs or how dangerous it is.
Okay, species identification. The report shows wood as pine, Leophylla, common known as Chihuahua pine or yellow pine.
These are large trees similar to the size of the logs in the box. Though they primarily grow in Mexico, they also grow in many areas of the American Southwest. Look at the map of the distribution. So it does show it coming right up here.
It does go into Utah then.
Yeah, yeah.
So we now know that it's the right kind of wood that could have been from Aztec, but it could also be from this area, right? So now we got to figure out what's the age of it, and they address it here.
That's holy cow. 500 years ago.
There you go.
That's Aztecs, huh?
Yeah.
That's great.
When a tree gets cut down, the rings in the tree stop exchanging carbon with the biosphere. So the radiocarbon test tells scientists when the tree actually died. So this test confirms that the logs that the box are made out of were cut down around 500 years ago, which matches.
Okay, so guys, this was an exciting moment for you guys. You found through that carbon dating system that the logs are 500 years old. Now, there's still a lot of other questions to answer, but how did that feel being in that room when you guys found that out?
It was exciting.
Yeah, it tells me that underground they were using those caverns, during the Aztec time or the lore of the Aztec time. So that's pretty exciting, and some of the things you find around there are artifacts and things like that. That all lends to to the logs and the caverns and what's there.
Right, and we've had a lot of questions about the logs and about what we have been able to see there. People are asking things like, why would the logs be still intact? Why would the rope still be intact? And these are honestly questions we don't have the answers to yet. We don't know how long it's been underwater. I mean, Charlie, has there been discussion of that cavern maybe being dry for a certain period and then being flooded, or is there anything like that you can tell us about?
Well, my personal opinion to it is it hasn't been flooded for 500 years. I think at some point in time, something was triggered, maybe 50, 100 years ago, that caused that flooding. But obviously, when they were working in those caverns, they were dry. So something caused the flooding issue. A booby trap was hit or something like that from maybe a previous mining company or something like that, and it flooded it. So, but there's all of the questions still have to be answered. We just still don't know.
Interesting, and there's a lot of folklore about that. I mean, James or Carl, you can speak to this. I mean, booby traps and things set up to cave and fall. This is a normal scenario with something that dates back this far, is it not?
Yeah, it's a known thing that the Aztec would have put water traps and booby traps anywhere they had an important cache or treasure or artifacts or even burial site. They protected that in particular ways, and it's kind of indicative of that. And it gets even more strange when you do expand your search out to the petroglyphs and the pictographs, because some of those, they date back as far as 3,000 to 8,000 years ago and beyond. And so who's to say that like that box wasn't sitting there in a dry cave with an easily accessible entrance from another direction? But since then, people probing around the area have triggered the trap and flooded it, and released the spring or whatever. And so just recently it has gone underwater. And so the ropes and the wood and everything has a strange preservation to it that has to still be studied and figured out.
Well, and we just got a comment that's actually, in an even possible simpler answer than that is, the faults could have shifted and it could have opened, water into it, which we just don't know. And speaking to the preservation of the rope, we already know that water, it has crazy amounts of different elements in it and stuff. We don't know what kind of preservation potential there is in that water as well. James, what do you think?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I've never sampled the water there. I've left that to Dwayne and to the geologist that's on the show. But you got to also remember too, that water is freezing cold, and things in colder water tend to be preserved for better amounts of time. In that area, the water is not as saline as it is in the lower basin, which is also a good thing because you don't have that eating into organic material or inorganic material as much as it would. So I know there are a ton of possibilities, but I wouldn't have the answer that probably most people are looking for.
Well, and I'm sure in the coming episodes we're going to learn a lot more. Let's jump to another clip here, guys. We're got a few more things to get through that I'm itching to show. So let's do this here real quick.
So Steve, we're going to have to do a blast so we can get a flat spot to get that rat hole rig on top. Eric, it's going to be up to you to tell us how far we need to go down to get a good pop.
Yep.
The whole 9 yards. We do not want to fracture too far down.
Yeah, we could stand to collapse it and fill it up. It'd be a little tricky, but we'll work with the blaster, and it's all about getting that right charge.
Good stuff.
All right, so Charlie boy, I want to direct this to you because you guys decided that you're going to blast across the top to flatten an area to get that rat rig in there, and you've got Eric bringing up concerns of things just caving in. What are you thinking right then? Because you're standing on top of that. You could go right down with it.
Yeah, safety, when you've got 30 people out there working, I always have to be concerned about the safety issue, whether it be from the work we're doing or from intruders or whatever. But I had a lot of concern when Eric started talking about, that just could completely collapse on us, and we're all up there working. So I was really kind of opposed to blasting in the beginning, but if all the numbers worked out right, then yeah, okay, let's do it. But Eric kind of convinced us that it's not a good thing to blast there.
Yeah, that concerned me immediately. And then you guys went back and forth a little bit on, how to get it done. You did determine it wasn't safe. We don't have time to go through all those clips, so I'm going to jump to another one because this speaks a lot to what goes on up there that we really have to address here. So take a look at this clip here real quick.
Damn it.
What is it?
The computer went out.
No way.
Yeah.
We're ready, we're set, and it goes a half a foot and the computer malfunctions. Something happened to it. We don't know what it is, but it happens all in this whole area. It doesn't surprise me.
All right, guys. You got the rat rig up there. You're trying to dig down. You're in there first day, and within 30 minutes, the electronic equipment goes out. I mean, how frustrating. Charlie, you're standing there. You've worked hard to get there. What are your thoughts?
It's like, okay, here we go again. Because every piece of equipment that is that has a lot of electronics to it eventually will malfunction. A lot of times you can take it out of the area and work with it and bring it back up, but just about everything we take up there, it has a malfunction to it.
Okay. I have to add to this, guys. I've been up there, obviously on the ranch many times. We've done tours. We've done a little bit of filming ourselves, and my equipment, my filming equipment, my audio equipment would work perfectly in one portion of the ranch, and then literally blip out, drain my battery. Odd things happening in another part of the ranch. That is no joke. That is really happening. Jamie, have you dealt with any of that? Are you working with any of the computer equipment or anything that's been affected?
Well, I have had my walkie many times die on me with a full charge. Just for no reason at all.
So, okay. So from a scientific perspective, James, Carl, I got to lean on you guys on this. We know that there's different magnetics. We know that there's magnetic poles and crazy stuff going on. We don't know why, but we know that there's crazy stuff. Tell us something. James first, and then Carl, I want to hear you as well. James, tell us something. Why would the electronics go crazy?
So it's that exact location where they ended up digging. I had a magnetometer that got fried right exactly where the drill bit was going down into the ground. And I mean, you're talking about having to replace a piece of equipment that costs thousands of dollars. So I was pretty pissed, but in that location right there, you have these readings, magnetic readings that are very different than the standard magnetic read for that part of the earth should be, meaning that it's higher and sometimes it's lower than what it's supposed to. And that doesn't make sense. It should either be higher or lower. If it's lower, there's obviously a void below ground. If it's higher, there's some type of magnetite or a large amount of metal or some type of damn magnet underground. So where they are, there is something very peculiar. It's not even one of the two energy zones that Dwayne and Charlie Boy talk about, or Chad talk about. It's just it's a kill spot is what I consider it, because in the energy zones I have equipment fail but never get fried like it was there. So you're just talking about it's interesting because I've never had EMF anomalous readings in that location, but I've had EF, electric field, which is, I don't understand, because there's nothing electric around. There's no, there's no power lines anywhere. There's no housing. There's no equipment. So why EF, and then why all this magnetic differences in that spot? So it almost seems transient as well. And it makes you wonder, for that to occur, you have this positive ions maybe in water, and there's a huge transfer of water underground taking place, whether it be a moving river or an underground stream or a huge spring. And then we know, I mean, I've been to 13 springs that are north and northeast and northwest of the property. So there's just an exuberant amount of water underground, and not just Dwayne's 1.86 miles of underground caverns, but you're talking about 40 to 50 miles of caverns in all directions, known caves, ice caves on Mosby Mountain, a sinkhole 2 miles north. It's just an amazing place to be investigating and research, especially when I'm underground. You couldn't imagine what it's like. It's another world that exists below what you're seeing.
Amazing. And we're seeing this in the comments as well. A lot of people are saying it's the rare metal under the ground, because we know that there is, and we don't know what it is yet, but we know it's there. Carl, your thoughts?
Yeah, the earth has a natural electromagnetic field and a frequency to it, and we're constantly walking and existing and living in that, even though we don't perceive it in our regular default awareness, which is very limited and a very limited perspective. We can only see the colors of the rainbow. We can only hear a certain spectrum of sound, and our senses are only able to pick up and interface with reality at a very narrow bandwidth. And when you get in some of these anomalous zones or these hot spots, there could be something strange about the geology, whether it be the crystal formations interacting with the flowing water and aquifers underground. It could be with the way they're just positioned with the latitude and longitude of those places on Earth and naturally creating that. It could be something anomalous like a UFO or things underground, as well as it could just be like a meteorite impact that has caused like a crinkle in that, or a twist in that electromagnetic field that happened a long time ago. And when you walk through these zones, it affects your consciousness. It opens up your perceptions. You start to experience paranormal things or see orbs in the sky. And it might be that they're actually there and occurring, but normally they fall into a blind spot of our awareness and we don't perceive them until you get into these amplified zones. I've even experienced my equipment getting drained like that, and even cognitive difficulties and memory loss and things, to where I tried to look for equipment in my backpack and couldn't find it. And then the very next morning, I look in the same zippers and it's all right there. And I feel like I'm confused and having strange dreams. And there's something to it that's anomalous about the area, either geologically with all the fault lines or something that occurred or something buried there that we just don't understand. And it might be a mix of all of it together.
Yeah, and we've got a lot of people online that are agreeing. There's some stuff that's large amounts of quartz could explain some of it, right? There's a lot of craziness going on up there, and it's hard to cover everything because there's so much going on with this episode that leads to so much more. I want to get back to the actual digging, the drilling. You guys decided to drill down. You guys are having these problems. There's so many ridiculous things that are happening. Let's look at another clip here and see what actually happened towards the end here of this episode. You finally got the drill back going.
I think I hit your void.
Hey,
Yeah.
look at that.
Wow.
What depth are we at, Troy?
So you got all the way down to the void.
Sure enough, man, we dropped right into that cavern. It was just an awesome feeling. Our plans are.
So, Charlie boy, you're standing right there. I mean, that's got to be gratifying. You found the right place. You drilled. You got down to that void.
Yeah, we had information on that particular drill site for quite some time, and decided to go ahead and drill it. The preparation for it was pretty extensive, but we were pretty well right on target, I think, with that site.
Yeah, and I thought it was really great. The next thing that you guys did, just to confirm exactly what you're doing, and I'm going to show the clip here, is you dropped a camera down there so that you can actually see how close you were on target.
Oh, good. The camera's still on.
Yeah.
All right, let's check it out. All right, here we go.
It's going down.
Wow.
So the lighting is good right there.
Yeah, very down. Very
Yeah. Is that water?
It looks like water.
It's water.
It is.
Okay. Let's keep on going.
Keep going. It's water. A little cloudy.
Yeah. See it?
Is that it? Is that a log? It's like a log, man.
Oh man, it's the box.
That's the box.
Nice. So now you've gotten all the way down. You're right over exactly where you need to be. And you've got a crazy plan. You're going to drop a chain down there. Tell me about that plan, Charlie.
Well, you know, and trying to figure out how to start taking that box out of there. And Dwayne came up with that idea. We'll drop. I don't remember how many feet of chain it was, but it was a huge chain. It was very heavy, I could tell you that, and lots of it. And then Chad would have to go back in, work his way back up to it, hook on to it, and we'd start dragging it out. And so, you know, that plan was a good plan, and it worked to a certain point. And then after that, you know, one thing leads to another. So you have to start really thinking about a different approach again. So yeah, it was
Well, and the concept here is you guys want to take the box out whole, right? You're trying to drag that whole thing out and make sure that you've got enough room to pull it. I mean, it sounds like a monumental task.
To say the least, yeah. To try to get that out was proved to be very, very difficult.
Yeah, and there's no way for you to drop the camera into the box to see anything. We've got a lot of people asking about that.
That camera, I'm not sure if that camera was equipped for underwater.
Yeah,
I think that was just a dry camera and not something we could actually put into the water. So,
well, I know that you could see a little bit, right? But to actually navigate through, and I believe in the previous clips from last season, you know, Chad couldn't just get into the box. It wasn't quite that simple. But man, this is getting really exciting, guys. Some stuff exciting, some stuff scary. Jamie, I'm going to go back to you for just a second. I know you can't divulge everything about this investigation, but there's serious concerns around that girl and the security, and now this NASA stuff. I mean, you stepped into a large undertaking. We're going to see a lot more of you, right?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It's I will say this much: it's a lot bigger than I ever thought it would be or could be.
Right. No, understood. That's it's an insane undertaking. The land out there, obviously, as we're hearing from everybody, and James and Carl, I appreciate so much that you guys know that area so well and you've dug into things. We've got some really, really fun episodes coming up, I'm sure. I cannot wait to do the rest of this with you guys. Unfortunately, we're a little bit out of time here, but I want to thank each and every one of you for coming. Charlie boy, you're always welcome here, man. I love your insight. I love what you're doing out there. Thank you for joining us.
I appreciate you having me on.
Very good. Jamie, welcome to the team, my friend. You don't know what you signed up for, but you're going to have a ride.
Yeah, it's been a crazy ride so far. That's
awesome.
For sure.
Awesome. Well, and I'm getting lots of comments from the fans here. I want to direct this still towards Jamie and Charlie boy. Everybody loves you guys. You guys are awesome. The fans and the people in specifically in Vernal, Utah, amazing people. We appreciate you all so much. Everybody is really just awesome. So welcoming, so inviting. There's some really great stuff. I want to invite everybody to join us as much as possible. Follow and like us, Blind Frog Ranch Outpost. There's a QR code there for our Facebook. You can also follow us on Instagram. This is obviously hosted by the Blind Frog Ranch Outpost, which has some amazing things for you guys to take advantage of. This week's special is 15% off all the BFR ball caps, which you see all these guys wearing these ball caps. They're actually very amazing. And then, of course, if you want to get straight to the site for that is blindfrogranchoutpost.com. James, amazing information. Love you. Love all the work that you do. Thank you so much for joining us again.
Sure. Just real quick, too, I'm going to miss you guys next week because Duane Ollinger and I are going to be speaking in Phoenix at the Phoenix MUFON, which is at noon to 3 here in Phoenix, Arizona. So if you're in the area, come see us. We're going to be giving a lot more information out as well.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a fantastic event going on there, James. We appreciate that. If you guys want to know more about that, like I said, follow us on Facebook. James and Dwayne are going to be there. That's a fantastic combination of just some phenomenal information, guys. And then Carl, thank you so much for everything. You're amazing. I appreciate all your insight.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and if people want to see what I'm doing, dancing around this topic, kind of freelance from my own perspective, where I can run wild and explore this in all sorts of different angles and get weird with it, you can check that out on Carl the Crusher on YouTube. I do full 30-minute videos all the time. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, and everything. I'm trying to get at this from every angle possible. The amount of people I'm connecting with and the mystery just gets deeper and deeper, more synchronistic and strange, and it's awesome. It's really awesome to be a part of it.
And on a much lighter note, I've gotten several comments about how awesome your glowing rock is in the background.
Yeah, I like my whole environment to have that vibe. It reassures me,
That's awesome. Well, once again, from Blind Frog Ranch Outpost in Vernal, Utah, where we're doing tours on the ranch, and from all the awesome people and the staff of Mystery at Blind Frog Ranch on Discovery Network. You are going to see the next episode next Friday night, and then we're going to be right here again next Saturday morning to do our recap. We're going to have, of course, live commentary, different guests each week. We're going to have a lot of fun, guys. We appreciate everybody. Thank you so much, and we are out.